For $750 it is possible to get a flagship level of headphone amplification. This is the Burson Audio Playmate 2 Basic. I'm calling it Basic not because it's a basic amplifier or DAC, but because this is the basic version. It comes with some pretty standard operation amplifiers, but Burson Audio actually makes high-end op-amps. You should actually check both my video and my written review about those. Those are the Burson Audio V7 Vivid Pro op-amps. But they are not the star of today's review. No. Today the star is the platform on which I installed them. The Burson Audio Playmate 2. This is a headphone amplifier, a DAC, and also a DAC for desktop. It has multiple inputs, multiple outputs, a very simple but very practical design. So let's start with the casing. This is a thick aluminum casing. It protects the internal motherboard or circuit board from interference, from EMI, ERFI, and other types of electromagnetic and other type of noise. At the front, we have two buttons. One button for selecting the menu and for cycling through it, and one button for the on-off switch. We have a volume wheel on which you can press. The volume wheel is a digital controller because it turns indefinitely, and also it doesn't register the steps quite correctly. So sometimes when you increase by one step, it goes back and then plus, then back and then plus and such. So it is a digital controller. That being said, the actual volume is controlled internally, so there is no channel imbalance or problem with the volume. It's just the way the volume is implemented. We have one headphone output in the 6.3mm single-ended format and one microphone input. Really useful because a lot of gamers are playing this and using it as a motherboard for gaming. People actually have asked me, what can you get that's better than a Creative X5 and which is more audiophile? So Burson Playmate 2, that is a good answer for you. At the back, we have a Type-C USB input. We have an optical input, both of which are pretty good. Also, we have an RCA output for speakers. The RCA output has a bit of background noise, but it shouldn't be noticeable unless you have a pure amplifier. So if your amplifier doesn't have volume control, you'll hear some background noise because it's amplifying the sound at 100% all the time. On the other hand, if you have volume on the amplifier, you won't notice any kind of background noise. We have also the power input, and Burson Audio actually makes two things. First off, this ships with a pretty large power brick that is used to deliver power to it, which is already pretty high-end. But the company also makes a really high-end power brick, which costs about $500 if I recall correctly for the 5 amperes version. It is smaller than the original power brick, but it should provide it with better sound. Back to the Playmate 2. Is it good to play with a Playmate? I think so. I think it's a pretty good DAC. So it has 3 watts of Class A power for headphones, which means that it's insanely powerful at driving them. You can drive everything, even the Kings, which I have here. This is the Clark Audio Expanse. This is an open back headphone and it's also the hardest to drive which I have in my collection. It's so insanely hard to actually drive it. So portable sources won't do it. Even some headphone amplifiers for desktop won't do it. But Playmate 2 will drive them. It will drive them pretty well. So they look pretty good. Also, the sound is really dynamic, punchy and detailed. Don't forget, if you don't feel like the performance of the Playmate 2 is quite up for a flagship, adding the V7 Vivid op-amps will enhance it. I'm not actually selling those in any way, so this is my personal opinion. I like the sound so much better with the V7 Vivid op-amps than with the original op-amps. I even opened it up and I searched the price of the original op-amps and they are not cheap, so Burson Audio didn't cheap out on the basic version. It's just that their internally in-house designed Vivid op-amps are considerably better. With 3 watts of Class A power, you will be driving mostly headphones. The reason for that being that there is quite a bit of background noise and hissing with EMs. Even EA900 from Sennheiser will show a bit of hissing, and most EMs will show a bit of hissing. It's something that happens with the Playmate 2. Because it has such a high driving power, it has a high output impedance, and that transfers to a higher noise floor with EMs. So it is mainly designed for headphones. Also useful because we are reviewing a desktop headphone amplifier with single-ended only. You can use an accessory like the DD Hi-Fi DG65B, which transforms the single-ended output in a balanced output. For example, if you have a balanced cable and if you don't want to remove the cable, you can just plug this in and it will give you a balanced output. That is legally allowed to happen. You are legally allowed to transform single-ended to balanced, but not the other way around. So if you have balanced headphone output on the source, do not use a single-ended cable. You will burn the source, because at that point you will be short-circuiting the pluses for both channels. Playmate 2 sounds wide, holographic, and pretty bright. While the original Playmate was quite bright, that one was a really bright sounding headphone amplifier, also had a similar signature, similar design with the Playmate 2. The original was really bright. There was not a hint of warmth in that sound. It was cold, analytical, but it revealed everything. Also really high gain on it. I have talked a bit about the gain with Headphone Audio Serenade, which has a slightly higher gain, but the short version is that the higher you have the gain, the quicker you get to a loud sound and the more you will hear the background noise. With the Playmate 2, the gain is set actually lower, so you will not hear a high background noise with headphones, you won't hear any background noise. And also the sound is much warmer, much smoother, more organic, fuller and more detailed. It is a full improvement over the original Playmate. I think that it is a worthy improvement. If there is any drawback to it, that is the volume wheel, which sometimes registers the steps wrongly. Also, the optical input will have some delay, not with all sound cards, but with some sound cards it will have some delay. That is something that I noticed with multiple DACs. For example, I have in my computer the Sound Blaster EA9, which is a high-end PCIe sound card, and it has a delay on the optical output. The delay will be transferred to the DAC amp, but on the Type-C input it doesn't have any delay, and with a proper sound card it doesn't have any delay on the optical either. It's important to keep in mind that the delay comes from the digital converter, so digital to digital converter when it comes to optical, and not from the DAC amp. Usually DAC amps are free of it. On the sound of the Playmate 2, you will hear the widest, most explosive sound, yet with a pretty neutral bass. So the bass doesn't really feel that warm, it is a pretty neutral straight line bass. Then the mid-range is super colorful, detailed, again really wide. The width of the sound is purely impressive. It's just so wide. You get sounds from every direction, you get sounds from outside of your room, you get sounds from another universe. This is how wide it sounds like. The problem with this type of presentation is that if you go too wide, you get a bit of blending between instruments. And I noticed that with the basic op amps, you get a bit of blending. This means that sound isn't that separated. It blends together, it's a bit more cohesive, sounds a bit more like speakers or like sound field, for example, like listening to multiple instruments in the same room. But if you are an addict to instrument separation and to resolution and to detail, you will feel that it's not quite that separated when you have such a wide soundstage. I keep saying this, once again, the V7 Vivid op amps do improve on that. And those are also made by Burson. So the part that would be holding back the Playmate 2 is the operational amplifier stage. You have to improve on it, and you can simply order it with the Vivids installed. You don't have to order the basic. I'm right now describing the basic. It is pricier to order it with the Vivid op amps installed, but I think it's fully worth the investment now that I have both to compare. You know, if I was just reviewing the Playmate 2 with the Vivids, I wouldn't know how much of an improvement the new op amps make. So at the end of the day, how good is it of a purchase? If you have large headphones, it's excellent. It's one of the best DAC amps that you can purchase, especially with so much driving power, no background noise for headphones, a wide and holographic soundstage. It works really well for gaming because you get that super clear and well-defined directionality of sound. You get where a sound is coming from, even if they're a bit blended together. You also get upgrade options. You can upgrade the op amps. I think that's really cool. If you have EMs, I wouldn't fully recommend it because of the somewhat high noise floor. With EMs, there are other options, of course, which have much lower driving power. You don't need 3 watts of power in a pair of EMs. You don't get a lot of volume control either with EMs. So when you have something like the Burson Playmate 2, at 3 watts of power, even from volume 1 with an EM, the sound will be quite loud. While with a headphone, the sound won't be that loud from volume 1. You'll need to go up to 25 to 50 for the sound to be loud. I noticed this compared to the original Playmate. The Playmate 2 has a much better volume control, so the volume is more evenly spread. It increases more logarithmic, so at first you have more granular control. You can control the volume to increase slower, then it increases quicker and quicker, so you'll get a much better volume control. Is the Playmate 2 going to be your next audio purchase? that's up to you to decide. Please let me know in the comments if you have this, if you are ordering it, if you received it. I want to know how much fun are you having with it. If you are having fun at Audiophile Heaven, don't forget, subscribe to the channel because it really helps me out and it will allow you to keep in touch with me and my, I hope, useful opinions. Also, like this video as it helps me get higher up in the algorithm and more people can discover it. Thank you so much for watching and we'll see each other really soon. Bye!